We're going to go over the deferral option and how participants can claim deferrals and how you can set that up on the back end. Most races handle deferrals in a variety of ways, whether it's through a coupon code or they just have people sign up through reserved entries, all kinds of different ways. We now have a deferral via race transfer tool, which allows people to claim their own deferrals and get the proper credit based off of last year's registration. And since 2020 had a lot of deferrals going on, we built some tools to kind of help race directors assist with getting their registrants into next year's race. So in the menu up here, we can type in the word defer, and there's lots of different options here. Whether there was a fee for deferrals and you want to refund them, whether you take the participant decision report from the cancel postponement tool and bulk defer people, and then the various other options here. So we're going to be under the deferrals section, which is a participant management option. So you'll notice under participants, participant management, and deferrals, we're set up here to allow participants to kind of defer their own registration. So either this was done when the race was canceled, postponed, or just in general, you allow for deferrals. This is how you allow participants to kind of do that on their own rather than having to email in the race director and then you have to go on the back end. The way that someone would claim that deferred registration into next year's is this defer via race transfer setup option. And so because of all the different ways people handle deferrals, we kind of came up with some options to make it a little bit easier than to mass mail out coupons and set up reserved entries and things like that. So these two functions are separate. You don't have to allow participants to self-defer in order to allow them to claim it. Like I said, in that cancel postponement tool, you may have done bulk deferrals, so you didn't need this feature. So if we expand the defer via race transfer setup, it gives us the different year options from when people would have deferred. And so since this race is already renewed for 2021, we're going to look at the deferral setup for anyone that deferred in the 2020 race. So we'll go ahead and click on that event button here. And we'll come to if we want to allow people to automatically defer their registration via our race transfer mechanism. So we'll turn that on to say yes. And then again, you have a variety of options here. If you want to charge for processing the race transfer, you can. Most races allow that to be free, but that is an option that you can set to charge. The cutoff date is an ability to allow you to set when you want them to claim it. Sometimes people don't necessarily have to defer into the very next year of the race, so you can set this up to any type of date. So maybe I want to allow somebody to defer all the way through the end of April in the year 2022. So that would mean that anybody that deferred from the 2020 race can either claim that deferral into the 2021 year, or they can claim it into the 2022 year. So if you have like a destination race where lots of people travel, maybe they can't actually travel to your race, you can extend this cutoff date as long as you want. So for this example, we're going to put the cutoff date about 2 years in the future to allow for that. These next two settings is what transfers from last year or the original transaction. By default, we only allow the event cost. So if somebody paid $25 for their 5K and then they bought additional items, you would only allow them to defer that $25 credit and not the additional items. We also have a checkbox here that if we turn that option on, this would allow somebody to have that add-on amount also transfer. So if I bought additional items, those additional items would be added to my credit to transfer. So that works really well if you have additional merchandise, things like that. The next option here we have is 3 different ways that you can have that credit transfer. So this option was our original option, which uses the amount they actually paid for a deferred registration. This did cause some complications because if I got like a 50% coupon code and I paid $15 out of the 25, then only that $15 amount is transferred over to next year. Maybe the coupon is expired, so that can cause some complications. So depending on how you have people register for the event, we have a variety of options that you can allow. If you allow someone to use their amount paid for the deferred registration, we do have an ability to kind of show a nice gesture and increase that credible amount percentage. If things change, the cost of the registration goes up next year due to extra fees and precautions that you might have to take. So if we use the amount paid from last year's deferral, we can say up to 365 days or less from the event date, we can give them 110% credit value of what they paid last year. And you can allow that credit to go down to kind of encourage people to claim that deferral early if you wanted to. So that's a nice option to do. It is a little bit more customized and complicated, and we have some easier options that we just developed here. The next one is that the new event is always free. This is very simple. So no matter what I paid for last year, if I claim my deferral into next year's race, it doesn't matter what event it is, I'm going to always get that event registration for free. This is probably going to be used if you have a couple different event options, but primarily they're all the same costs. If you have multiple events where there's steeper costs, then this might not be the right option for you. And so we have a option to set the credible amount for the event based off of what the previous amount was. And this is pretty cool because you can customize this as registration prices increase. If you wanted to allow people to claim that deferral at any time through registration, you can set the max registration cost, so no matter what point during registration, they'll at least get that free registration. And that, coupled with these two options up here with only allowing the event cost to be credited, that way you're not giving away additional free merchandise or things like that. So we can go ahead and set the different options here and customize, like each race might have a different cost, and we can give that credit value to each particular race here. So no matter what I paid last year, whether I had a coupon, whether I had early bird registration or late registration, I'm going to give the full credit of what the highest registration cost fee is. So this is probably going to be the more popular option here because it handles if somebody deferred originally, say from 2019 into 2020, and so they didn't pay anything. This gives them that credit into the next year. Same with coupons or even full registration costs. So it kind of handles everybody all in one. So that's why I think this is probably going to be the more popular option. Then below, we have the ability to transfer the cost of this registration into other races. But by default, you'll see that we're always going to transfer somebody that deferred from the Vancouver Trail Run back into the Vancouver Trail Run. But if you have lots of different races that you either own or manage, you can allow them to transfer that registration into whatever events that you wanted to allow them to kind of claim that deferred entry. So we'll have a list of all races that you have full race director access to here. So you have to be a race director in order for the race to show up here if you want to allow them to claim that deferral into different races. So we'll leave it at the Vancouver Trail Run as the deferred race. And then you have additional participant messages that you can put, like when a transfer is allowed or when a transfer is not allowed. It allows you to add customized text to the registration process to kind of let participants know. So we'll just kind of copy this just to kind of show, and we'll say this is the message to display when transfer allowed, and then there we go. So we just added custom text in here that kind of allows you to give some verbiage to your participants. So that's pretty much it. We'll click and save these settings. And so what we've basically set up is anyone in the 2020 event that has deferred, no matter which race they deferred from, we're giving them a special credit into that race. And this is also really flexible because maybe I signed up for the 50K last year and I paid that 75, but because of poor training or what have you, maybe I only want to do the 25K. I'm allowed to easily transfer my registration to the 25K, and vice versa. If I did the 25K last year and I want to upgrade to the 50K, either because I have a buddy running it or I just want to try and challenge myself, I'll get that $65 credit and I'll just pay the difference into the race that I kind of upgrade to. Whereas if we were to set the new event as always free, somebody that registered for the 10K could easily upgrade to the 50K, and you may or may not want that. So those are the settings, and again, this is under the Participants tab under Participant Management and Deferrals. and it's specific for the race year that you set up. And again, the deferrals that you allow participants to self-manage is separate. They're mutually exclusive, so you can have one or the other or both. And we'll quickly look at what was set up in the 2019 deferrals, and we'll see that we had the creditable amount that was here. So these settings would appear to anyone who deferred from 2019. And so as people kind of either kick the can down the road to claim their deferral, you can have custom options to kind of accommodate that. So real quick, what does that look like? And how does a participant claim that deferral? So on my profile, I'll go to my deferrals tab, and I'll see that I have the 2020 Vancouver Trail Run option here. Because deferrals were turned on via the race transfer option that we just set up, the user will see this complete deferral option. Whereas if they have other deferrals that I can't complete that deferral, that means the race has not set up the race transfer option. So you'll want to make sure that you have these settings turned on before you launch registration or communicate to those deferred athletes. That way they can easily go to their profile, click on the deferrals tab, and then when I click complete deferral, it's going to automatically pull me up to show my registration from last year, what event I was in, and tell me that I'll be credited up to the amount that I set. Again, this is the custom message that you can prompt users there. And now I can start the transfer back into the 2021 year of the Vancouver Trail Run. So we'll go ahead, and I have paid $75 here. This is early bird registration, so I can choose whatever option I want. And this is a race transfer, so I'm going to complete that transaction as normal. So that's pretty much the simplest way to set up deferrals to allow participants to get into next year's race, and I think that'll save a lot of time rather than coming up with custom coupon codes, emailing out reserved entries, and things of that nature. So I hope you like these features, and please reach out if you have any questions.